Hello again, animals. I'm Foxpresso, and welcome to my room. I hear you wanted to find out more about convention roommates, and there's a lot to talk about, but first, let's look at some of the comments you have left on the last video, as well as address something I forgot to mention when factoring in your con hotel budget. So, let's check the comments. York says, great video. I learned a lot about hotels booking from you. Truth is, 90% of the times I go the way of Airbnb and I find Airbnb to be very good. Usually much cheaper than the rooms in the block. If I do find a hotel room that's cheaper than Airbnb, I'll go for the hotel instead. Yeah, that's my take and habits for cons. Love your channel and videos, keep up the great job. Thanks! Whatever works for you personally, and go right ahead and do that. Joe G. Bear says, excellent video. I follow many of the points you've made. I have a plan B in case the room lottery fails for MFF. I have Platinum Elite with Bonvoy and have my FWA at the Marquee set with free hot breakfast, $30 each per person otherwise, for myself and my roommate. Toad-tier restaurant for each day in my 5-day stay during FWA at Lost City. Access to lounge on 42nd floor is a treat. Staying loyal with one hotel chain is key, as over time, nights truly add up. To add to your piece, each hotel-based credit card add elite nights gains points for hotel stays, as I've used Bonvoy points to get one-night Compact SJ Marriott during FC. Marriott Bonvoy has no annual fee card and administered by Chase. Thanks again for this video. I'm at Hilton Diamond Fox myself, but I'd love to switch to Bonvoy sometime, as a lot of cons are within a Marriott earned hotel. Like, I can think of 3 Furry cons that officially have a Hilton owned hotel as a host. I may have to double check on that. Okay, now let's discuss the one thing I forgot to mention in the last video, incidentals. So, you booked your room, got your roommates, and are now on the way to the con. What happens at check-in? A couple weeks before the con, all those reservations are made in the block and are transferred to the hotel. You should have gotten an email about that with a confirmation number. You can use that number to check in to your room via the hotel's mobile app, and in some cases even select your room. Nevertheless, all con stays begin at the front desk. I mean, you have to get those physical keys to give to your roommates anyway. With the check-in process comes one additional charge that takes many by surprise. Actually, it's not even a charge, a tax, or a fee. Let me explain. When checking in, you'll be asked to supply a valid card to cover the entire stay and incidentals. First off, you're not being charged just yet, as much as a hold is placed on the card for the amount. Second, what are incidentals? Hotels assume that all guests will try to charge to the room, be it intentionally like a restaurant bill, or accidentally like sipping that bottle of water. Depending on the brand, it can be as low as $40 a night and as high as $100. I have been to hotels that add a flat $300 regardless of how long the stay is. Nevertheless, whatever is charged to the room will be counted as an incidental, and whatever is left in that hold will be returned to you sometime after checkout. This is why it's important to look at the receipt or folio on your final night just to make sure that any charges on the bill look right. If you have any concerns, please talk to the front desk agent and they'll help you out. I should also stress that because of the hold, it is important that you check into any hotel with a credit card and not a debit card. With credit cards, any holds or incidentals are released back to you almost instantly upon checkout. However, with debit cards, it can take up to a week because of how banks work, which can create issues if rent is due the week you return to con. Now, why do they have these holds? It's just to make sure that you actually have the money in order to pay for that hotel room. Okay, now let's go over the most common and arguably fun way furries stay at cons: room sharing. As mentioned before, convention hotels aren't cheap. And not only that, but having a room to yourself can get pretty lonely. Because of this, Many furries resort to sharing a room among friends, or in some cases, other random furries, not only to reduce the cost, but also for company and fun. Regardless of if you book through a room or looking for roommates with an open bed space, there's a few things to keep in mind in doing so. Probably the easiest way to share a room is seeing what cons your friends are going to and seeing if you can join the room. Otherwise, you can look at online social media and Telegram chats to find people to stay with at cons. Though, given you're speaking with strangers online, your mileage may vary. So let's talk about that. The reality of asking online for room space is that you are going to be dealing with a random assortment of animals, so set expectations on both ends. It's also important to be on the lookout for these common red flags. Sketchy payment requirements. As I mentioned in my last video, while some cons charge for a first night deposit, you're not expected to take a bulk of the cost. Beyond that, the entire cost of the stay isn't due until check-in. If the room host asks not only for you to pay months in advance for an amount that seems more than the nightly rate, and that you go through a payment method that doesn't allow you to return payments, like say friends or family on PayPal, then that's a red flag. And in fact, as I'm making this video, that has become a common scam. Most convention room shares average between $100 to $230, depending on the con, the room type, and how many people you're sharing a room with. Never should you be paying upwards of $500 or more. On top of that, be aware of lack of communication or details when you're seeking a roommate or a room. You really do want to get to know who you're staying with. I'll explain more about the best practices later on, but if your room host is vague on the details regarding the room, arrival times, rides, etc., you might want to reconsider finding someone else. Odds are, they may not have booked a room to begin with. Really, finding a circle of friends to room with prior is often the best result, but I know that isn't always an option, so it's best to keep your eyes out and be diligent about who you're speaking with. Now, if you're hosting a room, be sure to set some ground rules of the room and room share up front. Regardless if you're hosting room space or searching for one, be as informative as possible, and I can't stress that enough, about yourself, what you need in a room or a roommate. You know, I really should make a video about being a good con roommate. But what rules should you put in place? While we all have our different approaches, here's my personal advice. First, only go for the max bed occupancy. If your room has 2 double beds, and that's like 2 each, then you should only have yourself and 3 hours and others in the room. I don't really recommend offering floor space, partly because it makes things uncomfortable, but also it's a hazard. How often have you tripped over someone else in the dark? Hotel rooms aren't all that spacious and are getting even less and less roomy over time, so you'll have to navigate more people and their items. Set up a Telegram chat with your roommates so you can not only get to know them, but also keep them updated on the room, coordinate arrivals, etc. Next, split the total hotel room costs, nights and taxes evenly per person, not per night. Do not include incidental deposit in the share. Request payment electronically 1 week prior to ensure that everyone rooming has paid, so you won't be left short, and that there is enough time for funds to transfer to you in time for check-in. If hosting, set the tone and communicate with the roommates or friends. For example, is the room just a place to get away from the con and sleep? Will there be wild parties every night? It goes without saying that these two are entirely separate and require different approaches, which brings me to the next bit. Respect your roommates. This is where it is important that you get to know the furries in your room prior to the con. If there's anyone with an allergy or has to sleep early, please keep that in mind or inform that roommate that it may not be a good fit. Set the ground rules on room charges. On the off chance that room service is still offered in the hotel and someone gets the munchies, it is best to ensure that all the people in the room knows that if ordering from the hotel is okay, as it will be charged to the host. And that isn't cheap. I had a roommate decide to order breakfast in bed and leave me with a $120 bill. So please, make sure that you mention the policy, and if you're the one ordering, please keep the receipts and pay back the amount to the host. So, with all that, we shouldn't have much in the way of issues rooming with others. Naturally, it's a whole bunch of communication, and if that's irritating, it's okay. Lots of furries do this, and you might even make a few friends along the way. Be yourself and have fun. Hopefully, this can ease any of the concerns you may have and get you ready for the next convention. Next time, we'll discuss a way for you to save money attending the convention while also helping it out. If you have any questions or hotel habits that you have, please leave a comment below. If you like this stuff, please leave a like, subscribe, and perhaps join the Foxpresso Coffee Club. Until next time, yeah!
For as low as $3 a month, you can get this video or work in progress cut earlier than everyone else. In addition, you get access to a special Telegram group and have a say in the future of this series. I've gotten good feedback from people within this Telegram group and thank these animals for their support. Extra special thanks to Lufus Raccoon for his generous support as well. You can join the Foxpresso Coffee Club at patreon.com/Foxpresso or donate to my coffee at ko-fi.com/Foxpresso for any one-time amount too.